to Raconteurs News.
Good afternoon. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend out there in Radioland. This is a bit of a one-off. Normally we do recordings with these particular guests, but having a bit of a problem with recording software. So what we decided to do is do a live show. So you're more than welcome to log into our chat room at raconteursnews.com and pose any questions you may have. So we'll get on with the show, and really excited to welcome back for the October update Gordon Bowden and Peter Bromfield of Pandoras Box Investigations Limited. Good evening, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yeah, good afternoon. Early start.
Yeah, good afternoon, Andy. It's good to speak to you again, Bal.
Okay, yeah, always good to speak to you guys. So, what have you got to update us on then, please, Gordon?
Well, there's been a few things, really. One is you may have heard Andy Peach's show with John Patterson and Brian Setchfield doing a report of their court case on Friday.
No, I haven't actually heard that yet, Gordon. Can you please tell us what went off there?
Yeah, of course. Apparently there was a video put up on YouTube of John Patterson having a confrontation where he ended up with a bit of a bloody nose outside the Royal Courts of Justice. Somebody spat on him, and it entered into a bit of a jousting match, and John ended up with a bloodied nose. But apparently, I've been looking through some documents on the internet, and Nilu Berry has posted up a few things. One of them has been the sort of accusations made against Edward Ellis, where there's a civil restraining order against him, and under the conditions of the civil restraining order, he's broken those, and there's possibly a sentence coming to him.
Oh
wow!
Yeah, well, we know John wouldn't take being spat on too gracefully.
Oh no! I say it's nothing to do with that. There was. He did put the video up on YouTube, but he's made it private.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that. I don't know the full circumstances, but apparently there's going to be a civil restraining order put on John and Nilu Berry and possibly Belinda Mackenzie. I'm not sure on the actual conditions of that civil restraining order, but it appeared though, because all their cases have been struck out.
Oh, well.
Well, it doesn't look that good for John, but there you go.
Well, we did warn him. We did, what more can you do?
As I said, Peter, it's very hard to try to convince somebody when they believe that they're acting in their best best regard.
I understand that, but hopefully he'll see the light now.
Well, I hope so, because if he doesn't, apparently these civil restraining orders are for 2 years. Yeah. And I know John, he's a very strong-willed and strong-minded guy. He's going to continue the fight, but
absolutely
come with consequences. I said there's many ways to skin a cat, and I think John went about it possibly in the wrong way with the wrong people. But the door is always open to John, because he's been one of the prime movers of some of the most important information for the British public.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd bleed for that guy, but unfortunately he took it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Insults flew my way, and I don't take kindly to those, the same as with George Leese, and look what happened to him.
Well, there you go,
Yeah, well, what has happened to George Leese lately? I haven't seen any output much from him.
Well, he was evicted from his property by the sheriff, and that's because of the divorce settlement against him.
Oh dear.
And so I think he's homeless now, but obviously somebody would have taken him in. He's posted a few videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen he's been posting and all of that, but
There's only one thing that worries me about George is his mannerisms in which he does the videos. He laughs at himself a lot.
Yeah.
And that could have dire consequences as towards his mental health. And I'm sure you'll appreciate he's a very intelligent man. He knows exactly what I've tried to teach him, and he's used those mechanisms very well. However, possibly with too strong a religious connotation, he's drifted across to another system of exposing these people. I'm trying to look at the people within the last 5-6 years who are still conducting these frauds, whereas George tends to go back to biblical times, and I think that's sort of
what they've been doing it for, really, Gordon. Isn't it? They've been taking the piss out of us all for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I know that, but I've got a good sense of humour, and I take insults as being a conspiracy theorist. I don't base my stuff on conspiracy.
Like when you can prove something, it's no longer a conspiracy theory; it's a conspiracy fact.
And as I understand it, if you believe what you are saying is true, then it's not conspiracy. If I can prove it, then it's definitely not conspiracy. And what I've been saying is provable with forensic documents, and therefore that's not conspiracy. That's fact.
Exactly. And we know where it all is. I mean, as we always say, by naming these people, we're the only ones that name these people. And we get no comeback at all from them. So, you must ask yourself, we're hitting the right buttons, because there's nothing in what we release that isn't proven.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a new Prime Minister, Theresa May. Now, you will see through some of the repostings of the CC recipients that I've sent out to Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May, and the rest of the cronies, Boris Johnson, and I've had full backing from Joe Solis, and Stevie and Lillian. These are the driving force behind checking some of the information I've been putting out there, and it's
Joe's a bull terrier. She once she gets the bit between her teeth, there's no stopping her, is there? So
no, too right. We're fighting for a just cause, which is to try to inform the general public that we have a government in power that can be proven not to be acting in the public's interest. And when you say that I'm trying to say, and Pandora's Box Investigations Limited are trying to save this country's financial wealth and the effects it's having on the National Health Service, miners' pensions, it doesn't.
I mean, maybe we could talk. Maybe you could talk a bit about how. Because what affects a lot of people now, and they're talking about putting the pension age up to 70 now. I mean, the reason they're doing this isn't because there's more older people. It's because the pension funds have been systematically dipped into by these corporations, by government. I mean, they're run. The majority of them are run by hedge funds, BP, and they just play with the money, and they've lost it. They lost it in the crash, and they've lost it to corruption, and the pensions affect all of us.
Well, let's take these for facts. Let's look at many of the cancer charities reinvest their inputted donations into various companies, corporates. And when we look at the tobacco industry and the arms industry, that's where they're bunging the money.
That's right.
They're on a winner, because as a military man, you'll understand, is that when you have a munition stockpile, if you don't use it, you lose it, because and so they look for a consequence to be able to use it. Now, I'm not saying that every action that the military take is a fraudulent action. We have to defend our integrity and to maintain human rights throughout the world where we are established, and that includes the Commonwealth. However, what I'm against as an ex-military man is that we have been used to progress corporate interests throughout the world. And that's what I'm against as a military man. Now, I'd stand before any panel and say exactly and name these people where they use senior SAS commanders to act on behalf of corporates. Now, there's nothing better than to send a force into a sovereign state to start trouble, to fund a rebel group, to start trouble, to overthrow a government so that they can install a corrupt government.
Yeah. And so they can rape the country of their resources.
Doing in Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan, they've been doing that with the corporate interests at mind. Unless you've served in the military, you wouldn't know who sets up the bases for all our military. Well, if you look at Kellogg, Brown and Root and many of the other corporations, you'll see that their head directors are members of the House of Lords. And this is what I'm saying, is that the general military have no concept. They have no concept of how they're being manipulated to put their lives on the line for a just cause that we believe, having been informed by people like Tony Blair and David Cameron and Theresa May, that these are actions that are necessary for humankind. To me, it's a joke, because what I know and what I've found out in the last 15 years has made my stomach churn, and that's what the people need to know. I'll stand before any inquiry. I'll show people information and documents that make them vomit, and that's not right in this modern day. We serve in the military and have served in the military to defend our country, not to make people rich. That was never the intention. But have a look all over the world. There's plenty of concrete plinths that lie in there where any politician would not be able to name one of them. For what? What was it for? Any of your listeners can give me an answer to that. For freedom and justice, well, have a look at Tony Blair's corporate interests for JP Morgan and UIN Energy, where he was making a few $100 million. It makes me vomit.
Yeah. These people are just funding their own pockets, basically, and taking the piss out of all the rest of us.
Yeah,
and it's proven. We all know everybody on the street knows that governments are corrupt, but they have got no idea of how corrupt.
How can you have a government that makes a declaration that under the Official Secrets Act they will keep Sir Mark Thatcher's business interests into selling arms to foreign Gulf countries? Yeah,
well, what it shows is they're breaking the law with these D notices, because they're hiding broken laws. They're hiding investigations. You can't look into these.
That's what they're hiding.
Yeah.
And say, even with Dr. David Kelly, how can they keep somebody's evidence that should have been used and called for in the Chilcot inquiry secret for 70 years, so these scum will all be dead?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's their it's their kids that have got to suffer the consequences.
Too right.
But I think with my observations of politics today, and the disarray that all of these people in, and the way they answer the question, well, they don't answer questions, and the way they just fob the ordinary people off as fools. I give a prediction: these politicians are soon going to be thrown out in the street. They're creating a class war, in my eyes.
Well, not just a class war; it's a corporate war. And I say it's very easy for me to understand how you follow the money, but when information is given to a politician to act in the best interest of the public as their duty of care, to expose organised crime to the level where it involves hundreds of billions of pounds, that would save a lot of the corporates that they're now pleading for, with the National Health Service or the police or the fire service or the military. When you start to name individual addresses that has a direct influence on stealing and money laundering hundreds of billions, they have a duty of care to expose those in Parliament. So when you name them, I'm amazed. I'm absolutely bloody amazed that these people, if they're so intelligent and they've been to Eton and Oxford and Cambridge, why the hell can't they, as space cadets and rocket scientists, why can't they see what I can see, that any member of the general public would identify as a massive boiler room that has been moving hundreds of millions, billions of pounds to Panama, to the Seychelles, to the British Virgin Islands, to the Channel Islands? How can they not see what I can see, which is genuine fact? That's what I'm amazed. I'm amazed that these muppets who have this little tete-a-tete across a central bench where they're all shouting, idiosyncrasies and dialect, that the general public laugh at them. They laugh at it. It's like a Muppet show. Yeah. So, if any of your listeners are listening to this, here's an influence and a reference to Theresa May. Quite a while ago, well, not that long ago, she reserved some of the most strident conference rhetoric for the subject of tax avoidance, and that was at the Tory party conference. Now, you'll have to excuse me because I'm reading this off a sheet. And Private Eye said that week, she could do no better than starting by looking at 80 Sydney Street in Folkestone, CT196HQ. HQ, that sounds all right, doesn't it? Anyway, from that little flat address, there were over 4,300 companies that were either active or dissolved, and the majority have direct links to the Panama Papers. So I understand that there's an investigation into the references of the Panama Papers. So why won't they take the evidence that can be provided by Pandora's Box Investigations Limited to outline individuals, name the company directors, like Roger William Turner, who's involved with Phoenix Mining PLC, and other references back to Masonic lodges? Now, when you start to do that, no, they all run away. Every politician, as soon as you start to mention Freemason or Masonic lodges, they all run away. Why is that? I just want to know. If there's anybody out there can tell me why they run away, then by all means, come and speak to me face to face. Because trust me, when you start to open up the doors, the Pandora's box doors of these addresses, it's madness. These people are stealing billions, and nobody cares. Why? Because there's a lot of politicians involved.
That's right, and the public don't know. The media doesn't report on it. We've taken this stuff to the highest authorities in the land. As you know, we've spoken about it on other programs, Andy, and it just gets closed down. And we know. I've heard about Freemasons years and years ago. I didn't know anything about them, but when you really look into this organisation, it's the glue that sticks it all together for the major people that are running the show, and it is a few people, So
something we've seen from the various guests that we have on the show, Pete, is that the judiciary, the police, and the corporations are all collaborating together, and there's got to be some system by which this works, and it appears that Freemasonry is the way that it works.
What makes me laugh about it is that corporations have got more rights than we the people, and this is a very, very dangerous road to go down, because eventually, as what happens all the time, if you look at the fall of the Roman Empire, it was the same now, that they get too big and it all falls down. They can't control it, and they're starting to lose control. They've started to lose control, especially over the last 5 years, and the cat's coming out of the bag. And this is why they want to push us into the wars, because you know, it brings out patriotism. It brings out, you know, you got to support the troops, and you know what I mean. It's just a big game of bullshit, you know. And there's lots of us that are woken up to that now, and I think we are, you know, we're doing it slowly, but I think we are having successes.
That is encouraging to hear that you are having successes. Can you give us any details on how things have moved forward since the last time you spoke to us, Peter or Gordon?
Yeah, well, we're working closely with Dave Eden, who's an ex-Met police officer, and there are developments that I can't go into where I'm meeting somebody on Thursday. He's going to bring this lady to Derby to come to my residence, and we're going to discuss some major issues and a case that historically made the major media. Now, I'm not going to go into it because it's this will be in its planning stages.
But you'll be the first to know, Andy. Once we've struck a deal with these people, we'll, you know, and things get rolling. We'll release the information on your show. You know.
That's great to know. Thanks, Pete.
Well, you've been a great supporter of ours from day one, and you know we appreciate that. You know, Gordon's been at this game for 16, 17 years now, and you know, if we had this kind of publicity from the start of when Gordon was looking into this, it'd be game over already.
Yeah,
but, you know, it's only been the last couple of years where I've personally seen things grow and grow for Gordon, and you know that can only be a positive thing, because the more people that wake up to this, and it's not only in this country, it's worldwide. You know, I get a lot of feedback from Australia, from Canada, you know, America. I mean, he's being listened to. It's getting out there. So you know, I think the Brits are going to cave in on them. We can see it now. The politics in the Western world it's never been so nasty. You know, I mean, these people hate each other. You know, it's.
And it certainly seems.
I can't see it lasting. We're led by those that least amongst us. I mean, you know, everyone can see it. It's just nobody knows what to do about it. And the thing is, through something like the corruption and following the money, it's a great way for us all to unite and get behind the work that Gordon's done for free. May I add? I mean, you know, all of this has been. You know, he's got the bit between his teeth and he hasn't stopped, where most of us would have given up years ago.
Yeah, it certainly seems with people like yourselves, word does seem to be getting out about how totally corrupt and politics is, and how the whole ball of wax seems to be unravelling quite quickly at the moment. I've noticed in the last few months there's things making the headlines in mainstream press that wouldn't have got in there, even going back a couple of months.
Closed down. David Cameron had to walk away. You know, I mean, there's big things afoot, and I think the established, or whatever you want to call it, I just call them a load of bottom-feeding psychopaths, because that's what they are. And I think the sooner they're out, the sooner we can get on with our lives. You know.
Yeah, I want to go fishing again, Peter. And one of the biggest pieces.
You know, the stuff that we know about that we can't talk about because it could jeopardise any future court cases. I mean, you know, we're giving you stuff that we know that we need to get into the public interest for an investigation to be open. But we know of plenty of private individuals that we could name, and we've got the bank accounts, we've got everything. You know, we can't do it because we could spoil any future court case. And that's the wall that we hit against, because the law is written in such a way, and as I'm sure everyone realises now that's in this game, it's written for us. It's not written for them. You know, you take these to the authority. You take this stuff to the authorities, and even they can't open an investigation. You know what's left. You know what's left.
Well,
I think this is what you're seeing across the whole of the political landscape in the West. You're seeing it fall apart. You're seeing the end of the empire again.
well, let's be specific, Peter. Let's be specific. Let's look at Amber Rudd. Now, she's just been appointed into the government.
Home Secretary.
Pardon?
She's Home Secretary, isn't she? She's taken over Theresa May's old job.
So how did she get to where she was in her corporate history and looking at the company corporations that she was involved with?
Yeah, and how much money they lost.
The general public doing a dismantlement, a due diligence to allow this woman who has 3 corporations that came out of 788, 790 Finchley Road. Where are they? This is the same address linked to 206,000 shell companies. Where's Theresa May doing a corporate inquiry into her past involvement with those corporates that ended up millions in debt? Where's the justification to allow this woman to be part of a government that would, if allowed, send us to war and launch nuclear weapons? Where's the justification? Rather get some tramp off the road to sit in a government that can act with honesty, integrity, accountability. Let's if any of your listeners want to look, the evidence is there. Have a look at Amber Rudd's corporate history. There's 3 companies linked to 788, 790 Finchley Road, as was David Mackenzie, Donald Mills, and Silvero Berlusconi, and the mafia, and corporate asset stripping of American defense budgets. It's all there. People just got to look.
Yep.
And yet the politicians like Theresa May, they come up and they sit on television and they spout this verbal diarrhea that really has no consequence in uncovering what should be done.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that the corporations, these global corporations, make lots and lots and lots of money. In actual fact, if they actually paid their tax bills, none of the rest of us would have to pay any tax at all.
No, what about Vodafone?
Yeah, I mean, that's just one company. I mean, you know, when you put it all together, I mean, the government raise about 500 billion a year in taxes and stealth taxes and all of that. So, you know, these people I'm paying more tax than these people, you know, and they're making billions and billions, and also they're getting subsidies. You know, some of these big multinational, multi-billion corporations are actually given subsidies by the taxpayers of billions of pounds a year between them, if you add it all up. You know, they're sucking the actual life out of our communities. You know, it's unsustainable.
Well, Gordon mentioned honesty, integrity, and accountability. Now, isn't that really what is missing from politics across the world at the moment?
Absolutely. You know, when they talk about interest, they're talking about their interests.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we know that these companies that are killing indigenous people so they can get their bits in the ground or chop down their trees, as is what's happening in Canada. You know, these corporations have got to be put into the past. We don't need these corporations because they're ruining everything. You know, for what? For what? You know, you've got to be a psychopath not to see it.
If the government were to sit down in a discussion with the members of Pandora's box investigation, no,
do you think we'd get any questions answered? Honestly, Gordon, do you think? I think we'd get the runaround.
Well, I know we've been given the runaround, but
we've asked for you know, give us a select committee to sit behind, or you know, so we could feed the questions to them for them. You know?
Well, we can do that as a joint group. We can make a recommendation that they meet with us, but it has to be done. We have to sit down and draft a proper letter, which is overseen by a barrister to understand the legalities of them having to answer it. Exactly. This is not about presenting a petition at 10 Downing Street. This is about sitting down with a genuine member of the government
Yeah, this is what we need to do. This is the only way to do it, because all of the doors that are supposed to be open for us to, because as we all know, it's illegal to not report a crime. It's illegal. So if we know of a crime, it's within our duty to the rest of the country to report that crime, and we are reporting those crimes, but they're not getting listened to, right? The law. Everything. I mean, the whole lot is corrupt.
Can I just say? Can I just go back now? I'm very good at naming names and companies for the betterment of exposing them. So let's go back to 80 Sydney Street, where I've said that all these corporates in Folkestone. Let's have a look at some of the companies. What about Area Petroleum UK Limited? And Area UK is ultimately joint controlled by Area Petroleum Cyprus Limited and the Gunvor Group Limited, and that's according to the accounts on page 25. Gunvor is reported and rumoured to be one of Putin's Russian president sources of undisclosed wealth, and is owned by Gennady Timchenko.
Yeah, doesn't he play in the Royal Russian Philharmonic Orchestra or something? He's a best mate.
Got a bong voice there.
Yeah, he plays violin.
So Area Petroleum undertakes international development. Listen to this: Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, China, Russia, Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and it has a turnover in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015 to $2 billion. And that's all going through 80 Sydney Street in Folkestone. Look it up on Google Maps and Google Satellite. You'll want to vomit. Now, where's the government to answer that? Come on, it's simple. 4,000 odd companies operate out of that address. It's a flat.
Mm-hmm.
There's
the reason they don't look into it is because most of them are up to their eyeballs in it.
I said, it's a joke. It's a bloody joke.
I would never have thought I'd say this about my own country, but I'm beginning to. It's the most corrupt country on the planet. That's little square mile down there, and it's out of tentacles.
Yeah, but when you said what I'm very good at is dismantlement, and when I talk about dismantlement of a mechanism as an engineer, what I tend to do is look at common occurrence. That if I see a common address and common directors, I then start to do a backtrack. And when I start to find addresses, much the same has been published by other people, like 80 Sydney Street, that all link back to various admin assistants. And those admin agents are the company formation agents of hundreds of millions of shell companies. I'm not exaggerating. It's there. The evidence is there. Now, when you start to look at these people, they have addresses in Limassol, Cyprus. And that's where Andrea Davison moved over 3 million. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Uh-huh.
So when you want to dismantle companies like that are exposed in the Panama Papers, all it needs is guidance from somebody that knows how the dismantlement works to a government agency for them to start an investigation on individual addresses. And once that starts, it's a rolling ball. There's no stopping it.
That's right. And have you been approached by Panorama yet, Gordon? Because you'd think you would have been.
Well, I made the approach back in, I think it was 2006, 2008.
And maybe we could put a shout out to people that are listening. Ring up the BBC and petition them to Gordon Bowden and Panorama to have a conversation.
Well, there was a lovely lady at Derby BBC radio, and that lady wrote to her friend in Panorama, and she said, I know a green ink merchant when I see one. This guy is not a green ink merchant. And that lady sent me the correspondence that she sent to Panorama. And the guy that replied, because I've got the correspondence, he said, I'll look into this. And she said, you ought to give this guy a hearing, because if 1% of what he said is true, it's an epic film. Well, it's not 1%. It was all true. And it was all documented.
So you've got to... Sorry, Gordon.
Yeah, that links to Mark Thatcher. And that's when you start to uncover the truth. That's what drives me. It's not my lovely lady lost 50 grand. No, it's not that 800 other people lost 130 million. No, it's the consequences of the people who walk around with dignified titles of Right Honourable that are nothing more. They're actually worse than the communist thief. And these people are allowed to continue. Yeah. That's what drives me. Nothing.
I'd like one of the things I'd like us to do at Pandora's Box is to, for people that have lost money on the penny market, indeed any of them that operate around the world, to get in touch with us. Get in touch with us. We want to document your story, and we want to eventually one day be in a position where we could maybe bring a class lawsuit, or there's several options that we're looking at. But we need people to get in touch, and indeed people that are even thinking of investing or currently are invested, to get in touch with us, and we will do a due diligence investigation into the companies and give you a report on it. So we want this to be self-funding by decent investors that have got a conscience, that are not out to rip off people,
Let me state categorically here on a radio show that it goes down as evidence. Anglesey Mining PLC is a 32-year-old Ponzi scam.
Yep. And it's still running. I mean, there's people on the run as well, but...
Yeah. If anybody wants to take me... The directors, past and current, are involved in massive Ponzi scams that have asset stripped those companies and moved them through shell companies or subsidiaries in order to asset strip those companies. Now, anybody want to take me to court for saying that on a radio show, which goes out aired to the members of the public, they're more than welcome. And the offer was made to Anglesey Mining directors and David Lenigas and all his cronies that are hundreds, thousands of shell companies that are asset stripping billions. Let them do it. Let them do it. The challenge is there. And trust me, if it comes to my mental stability, anybody can give me a mental assessment. They're more than welcome. But as long as they can have a look at some of the documents that I've got where people have said, thank you very much for what you've been doing. And they are multi-millionaires. They know what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, Anglesey Mining is going to open up the whole of the Pandora's box, because it leads to a lot of other things. And we think it's quite a weakness. It's going to be quite easy to expose the skullduggery that they've been up to, including the hiding of nuclear waste behind people's backs. People are living on top of this pollution, and they don't even know it. And we've got to expose this kind of stuff, and this is why we've named all the people in that. We named them a long time ago, and with no answers, So if Panorama don't want to do a documentary, it looks like we're going to have to make our own.
Well, look at, as I've said, this when you try to understand dismantlement of corporates and looking at their directors, to look at their history, their corporate history. Dinesh Kumar Varma. Now that man operates multiple companies out of a Masonic lodge. That's Painters Hall, 8 and 9 Little Trinity Lane in London, with all his cronies. And his cronies were Robert Ian Cuthbertson and Roger William Turner, and many more. It's when you look at the address, look at company check, see what companies have operated in there, past and current, is that then look at the directors and then look at the Panama Papers. Now, as I said, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. The evidence is there. Let them explain to a panel what the hell their companies have been doing, losing millions and moving the money to Panama or the British Virgin Islands, Barbados, Gibraltar, Malta, Limassol. Ask them directly in a Jeremy Kyle lie detector test, are their companies genuine? Trust me, this will be bigger than Coronation Street for 25.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, one of the ways they do this, obviously, is they'll set up a company here and borrow the money from the banks here and show it operating at a loss, whilst their offshore companies are very profitable. Thank you very much. And of course, I don't pay tax on that. So one of the answers to that is to close down all of these tax havens, and it would put a stop to all of this. They wouldn't be able to do it, and they'd have to pay their tax. They'd have to pay the tax. And it would only be better for all of us. Not just the ones that are sitting, off Monaco in their yachts, living on people's pension funds.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, people talk about Brexit. It's very common. It's a good talking point, a good topic.
It is, yeah. Because the question that was asked in that referendum is: do you want in the EU or do you want out of the EU? And the vote was out.
Yeah,
it didn't mention the European markets or immigration or anything else. It was in or out, and we voted out. So that's it. We're out. The European markets are crap. They're rubbish. The world markets are in a much better place. There's much better trade deals we could do with the rest of the world.
I'd like to ask
Europe's.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Theresa May, Peter. I'd like to ask Theresa May where the EU grants went for certain companies.
Yeah.
Now, Bombardier, we don't make trains here anymore.
No.
The Canadian company Bombardier. Well, I'd like to ask Theresa May, where did the European grant of millions go to Bombardier? It wasn't to Bombardier Derby that were making the trains that Chris Williamson sent a petition in to save their company. No, it went to Bombardier Airline Company. That's where the European grant went, to pay off their debt.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you follow the money.
This is why we've got people living on the streets and the NHS is collapsing. All our public services are at breaking point. It's because of the corruption, and we all know in the back of our hearts, we all know that these politicians are nothing more than self-serving lapdogs. That's all they are. And it's time we come up with another way. Let's give Gordon Bowden the Prime Ministership for a fortnight. He'd do more in a fortnight. The last 200 years.
I'll just be the advisor, Peter. Listen carefully. When I name addresses, I do so by making sure that there will be a reference to those addresses should those people wish to take any action in a court of law. Now I'll name a couple of others. 41 Charlton Street in London, NW1 1JD. That is a massive, massive boiler room, and it's interlocked to 44 Upper Belgrave Road, Clifton in Bristol, and that's through HCS Secretarial Limited and previous Hanover Secretarial Limited and the Brighton Formations Company Services Group International Limited. So, when people ask me, when you follow the money, it takes time to understand the mechanics. Mm-hmm. So when you can see how it's all put together, that's why I'm naming those addresses right now and those companies.
Yeah.
Because they include individuals like Martin William Macan, David Malcolm Kay, Neil Jonathan Dolby, Andrew Simon Davis. And when you check these people, I'm stating them on the record, that when you check those people and their corporates, that's how you put it all together. And do you know where it goes back to? Come on.
It's got to be Finchley Road.
Mr. Rothschild.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, if you ever looked at this gentleman, his name is Richard Spencer Finian O'Driscoll, is that when you know who you're dealing with, that's what I always say, know your enemy, is that when you can recover this information that leads back to addresses like 145 to 157 St. John Street in London, and you name those people, which I'm not scared to do, because they've got to run. And they can't run because these people are all interlocked to politicians. Now, I'll give you a politician, the Right Honourable Robert Norman Baron Edmiston. Let him give me a ring. Let him get his legal advisors to talk about the Funding Corporation Group. And guess who they're linked to? Pincent Masons.
Yeah.
And I said, when you see these people and how they've operated, how they've managed to contrive these webs, these snakes and ladders webs, once you unravel it, it's easy to understand. Now, I challenge anybody to go on to Director Check or companies in the UK and click on a company that links into Peter Valaitis. That's VALAITIS, and the Brighton's Formation Company Services Group International Limited. Put it in the internet, have a look, and then click his name on, because when you click his name on under Peter Valaitis, it comes up with a different guy's name. Now, that guy's got 891 director IDs. That's enough to make a corporate financial search go ballistic, because there's enough work there for 20 years.
Yeah. There's no regulation. I mean, what are the regulators doing? They're getting six-figure salaries and playing with these people on their own yachts. You know, it's an absolute joke. And these people call themselves honourable when they're doing their duty, and we're all paying for them, and they're doing nothing.
Yeah, I hope some of your listeners, Andy, can cross-reference anything that I've said you, and it'll open their eyes, and then they'll tell their families, and then they'll tell their friends. Because this is what we need. We need people to start questioning their constituent MPs to say, what's happening? How come this guy can find it out? And
well, you met with you met with the didn't you meet with the people from the mining union or?
Oh no, these were a group that were interested in maintaining the history of their mining community.
Yeah.
However, these people are all retired. They're all getting minimum pensions, and they don't want to engage in something which might bring hassle to their lives. These people have never confronted anybody in their lives. They're the genuine workforces of massive corporates.
Yeah.
They said they don't want any hassles. I'm not worried about that. I have a duty of care, and I will carry that. I'm not bothered about upsetting people.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure John Patterson isn't either. But one day we'll all sit down and we'll all get together and we'll see what we've done is the right thing, and that's what it is. It's the right thing to do.
Oh, absolutely it is. I mean, if we could just stop a few of these countries and get the money back into where it should be going, we've done the job. It's because this is why society is where it is today. With all the mass movement of people, and they do that for a reason. It's because it takes your eyes off the systematic rape that's going on of all of us.
Have you ever heard
people that are worse off than you?
Have you ever heard of the BCCI Bank? Peter?
Andy? I've never heard of them, Gordon.
The BCCI Bank. If you just put it in a Google search, you'll see that there's it was a massive scandal.
Yeah.
Lost I don't know, 80 odd £1 million or 800 million, and it was actually it was stripped by George Bush and his cronies, and a certain gentleman called Mohammed Adnan Khashoggi. Now, as an arms trader, you can understand how people gone in and they took the money from the banks, and now they're billionaires, and especially in the weapons industry. So when you look at individuals that were involved with that, and I did many years ago.
Aga Hassan Abidi.
Well, if you look at the BCCI Bank and check some of its directors, they were also directors of NM Rothschild. Now, doesn't that sound...
Massive money laundering and other financial crimes.
Well, asset stripping a bank. That's what it was, asset stripping a bank. And so what they did was they allowed themselves to take the money out of out of the bank, asset strip the bank, leave it as a smoking shell, and walk away. They stole billions, but nobody looked to follow the money to see how the common directors of those banks, same as Barclays Bank, same as Lloyds Bank, and they were all Freemasons, same as Abbey National Bank, they're all senior Masons, and they must laugh like hell as how they're robbing the banks from the inside. If you put a mask on and went to the teller and ordered her to fill the bag that you had in your hand, the police would hunt you down like the great train robbers. They'd hunt you down for 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter. But if you wore a suit and you sat upstairs in their corporate offices and you decided to loan your other company in Panama 200 million and then you wrote it off as a toxic debt, well, trust me, that's what's happening on a grand scale, on an industrial scale.
Yeah, it is happening on an industrial scale.
Well, the only people
it's so big. It's so big that it's beyond people's imaginations. It really is. The amounts of money that is milked out of not only our system, but most countries. I'd say all countries. This is why we're going to war now, so we can have a bit of that as well, or they can have a bit of that as well. So I mean, we're talking money. It's astronomical. It's ridiculous. And why do these people want so much? And it's only if you really boil down to the bottom dollar, it's because they use it to control us all, because they control the majority of it. They've got their own private armies that have got no idea who they're serving.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Pete. Just had a bit of a issue here. I was planning to do a 2-hour recording, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut it short, guys, because since we went on air, I'm afraid I've got a bit of a problem. I keep needing to dash to the bathroom, so I'm really sorry for this. I'll give you about another quarter of an hour. If you could
look after yourself, mate. Look after yourself.
Really sorry about this, guys, and sorry, listeners. We'll get back to normal next time we do an update from Pandora's box. But if you've got any important information that you need to get out, if you could do it now, please, guys. I'm really sorry about this.
No problem. You look after yourself. I say your health is paramount. I know I had to go for an aorta scan last week. Everything was fine, but to look for aneurysms. But
ooh, crikey.
Yeah, so I know what you look after yourself, mate. My work is all written. It's all down in documents and hard drives. So
yeah,
gonna go away.
This is too big. This is bigger than any individual of us. So there's plenty going to take the fight up. Our groups on Facebook are growing and growing and growing. I mean, it's beyond my wildest dreams, really. So you know, we can only get bigger and stronger we will be, the more people that are behind us. Because then it comes into the public interest, and that's where we got to go, Andy. And speaking of going, you better go yourself, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been really great to catch up with you. I'm really sorry to have to cut this short, but we'll be back Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and we'll be joined by UFO author and speaker Nick Redfern, all the way from Texas. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks for listening to this one, and we'll be back in about a month's time with another update from Pandora's Box. Hopefully I'll be a bit fitter and we'll be able to go for the full 2 hours. So thanks very much, everyone.
Take me back to my boat on the river. I need to go down. I need to come down. Take me back to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. Time stands still as I gaze in her waters. She eases me down, touching me gently with the waters that flow past my boat on the river, so I won't cry out anymore. Oh, the river is deep, the river, it touches my life like the waves on the sand, and all roads will lead to Tranquility Base, where the frown on my face disappears. Take me down to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. Oh, the river is deep, the river, it touches my life like the waves on the sand, and all roads will lead to Tranquility Base, where the frown on my face disappears. Take me down to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. Take me down to my boat